Hello everybody and welcome to week 4. I am going to do my best to get through this podcast, but I have a really bad cough, so please excuse me if I start to cough, but let's see if we can get through this. We are in chapter 3 this week, Sensation and Perception, and here is your to-do list. Again, here are your objectives, and some people have been emailing me about how to best use these. Again, I just want to reiterate, these are here for you to use to study with as a good way to make sure you're getting all the main points as you're going through the chapter. This is going to dictate sort of the take-home points that you should be getting for all the major parts of the chapter. So that's really how you'll use them. Like I've said in the past, a few people like to print these out and leave space in between each one, and then kind of use it as a reading or going through notes and fill in underneath each one and then use that as a study guide. So that's definitely a possibility as well. Here are your lecture slides. And then the videos you're going to be watching this week are all in episode 5 of Sensation and Perception. I'm also including the cite as you write instructions because I noticed that a lot of people struggled with citations in the discussion board postings. Some people just weren't doing them as you should be. These instructions are not optional. You should be citing in APA style if that's how your professor wants you to cite. And most in psychology are going to ask you to cite in APA style. So if you're a psych major especially, it would be good to get used to it now. If you're graduating and you don't care, I'm sorry, but you still have to cite the way that I would like you to. So take a moment and look through these. It's one page of instructions on how to cite by author and date. And if you happen to use a direct quote, how do you cite that? I noticed a lot of people over quoting, just kind of plugging in quote after quote after quote. That only shows me that you're really good at plugging in quotes. It doesn't show me your understanding of the material. I'd rather see you paraphrasing the material in your own words and then citing where the ideas came from. So please be aware of that. Your discussion this week deals with, again, the chapter. So chapter 3, you should be integrating, as well as Hawk reading number 5, called Take a Long Look. And it's based on infant preferential looking. Why do infants prefer looking at the human face? I particularly want you to explain that from an evolutionary perspective, so you might want to go back to chapter 1, where it talked about different perspectives in psychology. Make sure you understand what this perspective is all about before you try to explain how it would answer this question here. Okay? If you were a developmental psychologist, someone interested in how infants develop and grow, what might you ask about infant perception? So this would be someone today. So this is a question that hasn't already been asked and answered. So really having a good solid base understanding of this reading and the chapter, which is going to talk about types of developmental questions researchers have looked at in the area of perception, that's really important. You don't want to recite or restate anything that's already been done. And then I want you to use your knowledge of chapter 1 to briefly design a study, either experimental or correlational. You may need to go back and see what those two mean. What is an experimental study? What are its components? What would be a correlational study? How would I do that? And I want you to develop your own research question in the area of developmental psych, something interesting about infant perception that you would like to answer, and explain how you would do that. So here's your operational definition. How would you set up your study? Integrating in some past material of chapter 1. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of work, I think, this week for the discussion. Please allow yourselves enough time. Please don't try to answer the original questions and do your responses to other people in the same day. You shouldn't be doing that. That's why I give a few days in between each due date so that it gives time for people to respond to the original question before going and jumping in and replying to other people. So please keep that in mind. And then here is quiz 3 for the week, which is covering chapter 3. And that completes the week. It's pretty straightforward. But again, if you have any questions or run into any trouble and need further explanation, please don't hesitate to email me. Thanks, everyone.